everyone. How is everyone doing tonight? You are watching Polish Agnes. It's October 1st, about 6:07. So we are basically on time. Only 2 minutes late. Only 2 minutes late for Polish Agnes. That's incredible, I think. with my truck history of showing up. You guys, today, like I promised you yesterday, I am having a guest. His name is Jonathan D. Barros, and he is running for Congress in Connecticut for 5th District. Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm all right. How's everybody doing? Once again, thank you, Polish Agnes, for giving me the opportunity to be on your platform to speak to your viewers. For everybody that's tuning in to see this this podcast, I appreciate you taking the time out to hear what we have to say tonight. Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. I'm always happy to help with anything I can basically do, to help push any Republican candidates into this crazy government that we have. I will do that. Sometimes it's funny, but I don't even really figure it out what the candidates are all about. As soon as I know they are Republican, this is who I'm voting for. It's just I cannot stand the policies the Democrats are trying to implement. And now, well, today we are going to be talking about you running against a congresswoman. Her name is Jahana Hayes. And as I'm not mistaken, she is, I think, in the whole entire Congress government since 2019. So I think she got elected right before COVID. And we do have some questions when it comes to, her policies. We are not happy with a lot of them since she was advocating to defund the police, from my understanding. She also was expressing that she does not want to support, the Lincoln Riley Act, and I don't know if you guys know what that exactly is, but this was about a girl who was murdered by a illegal alien, you can say, and like brutally murdered, and it was an extremely loud case. So she firstly voted to push that act through, and then she said that she regretted it, and basically none of the Democrats voted for it. Only Republicans did. So I want to tell you guys real quick what the 5th District in Connecticut really is. It is only few of the, let me see if I can share this. There we go. It is only few of the counties and cities in Connecticut. It is western part of the state, and parts of Fairfield, Litchfield, New Haven is right here, and Hartford Counties, which is New Britain. This is where I am. This is New Britain right here. It also touches Torrington, and Torrington is tough. It's definitely Democratic. And then it says Danbury, and of course a big part of Waterbury, where Jahana Hayes is from. So I did pull up a short video. Let me show you guys real quick about her. Where is it? Is it this one? No. Okay. Oh, No, not this one.
I just want to say, before I forget, we Torrington actually is red. They George
They are?
Logan, yeah, they won. He won. The person that ran against the last time, he got 42.4% of the votes in Torrington. So he carried Torrington. The Republicans carried Torrington through last election cycle. So yes,
Oh wow.
Torrington is red. I got the numbers right here. So
I did not know that.
yeah. Now part of Torrington is in the first district, which is John Larson's district, which is like the Hartford area. But the portion of Torrington that I have in the 5th district, they vote red. So
Oh, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah. So,
All right, let me just play this video real quick here. And am I sharing it?
Because the question was about due process, and since it's for people who are accused and charged with crimes but not necessarily convicted of them, what do you make of the concerns about due process?
So I understand your concerns, and I understand how immigrants across this country who are here legally and have followed the law are being terrorized right now because they are unsure of what happens next. I voted for that piece of legislation because of a very specific provision, and it was if it caused injury or death to a police officer, which was one piece of it. There were other things about, to your point, Caitlin, someone who was was charged but hadn't been convicted. As I've thought about it over the last couple months, I probably would have voted differently. It's a vote that I regret, but coming into this Congress, I trusted that this administration, we would have some, if they wanted to have border security, they wanted to work with Democrats, that we could actually move forward. I'm not really sure of that because I've seen the rhetoric that has come out and the attacks that have been targeted towards immigrants. So I'm very cautious and careful when I'm negotiating my votes moving forward.
It's notable, Congresswoman, to hear you say you regret that vote. Congressman McKenzie, what's your response and thoughts on all this?
I would say this, actions that we have seen from illegal immigrants coming into our country, committing these heinous crimes, are a serious challenge that are long overdue to be addressed. And so I was happy that this was the first piece of legislation that the new Congress addressed. And it was passed in a bipartisan fashion through the House and Senate and became law. And there are more things that we need to do in a bipartisan way to actually get to solutions that 80% of Americans agree with. And so in instances like this, I think this was the right thing to do. It was a positive step, but there's a lot more to be done to protect our community.
Congressman Lawler, let me get you to weigh in here, because also tonight we just heard from the Supreme Court on the concerns about deporting people from the United States, who said the Trump administration must, quote, facilitate the return of the Maryland man who the administration acknowledged was mistakenly deported to El Salvador. Do you agree with the Supreme Court's ruling on that?
Yes. And he should be returned, and obviously they should follow the law there. But I would say when we're dealing with this crisis, we saw over 10.5 million migrants come into the United States during Joe Biden's presidency. They were released into the U.S. through a program called Catch and Release. And as a result, you saw across the country municipalities struggling under the weight of it.
I think it's been explicitly clear through votes like the Lake and Riley Act, where a broad bipartisan group of individuals voted for that legislation. Now, you mentioned that you regret your vote on that, and that's your choice, but it was only Democrats that voted against that bill. All Republicans voted for it. And so you do see that difference and distinction between the two parties nowadays. Republicans want strong border security. They also want to enforce the laws on the books here in our country. And so, again, I think it is only reasonable to make sure that we are deporting these individuals that have committed crimes in our country.
But due process is a law on the books in this country. And that's why Democrats, the people who voted against it, they had serious concerns about the lack of due process, which is on the books in this country.
Did Lake and Riley get due process? The answer is no.
Yes. So basically, this is what happened.
Mr. President, the next.
All right. With Jahana Hayes, she literally said that she regrets voting for it. And I understand people want due process, which means that you are going to have an access to a court system, and you can have your process even if you are illegally here, in court. But then, if we do have someone who is illegal and they murdered a citizen, what are we going to do with that? Are we going to be giving them a due process because they're illegal, or are we just going to be like, unfortunately, the law that you broke at this point is just going to give you the process of sentencing you and probably sending you off? I don't know. That's a tough call. What do you think, Jonathan?
The thing about the whole situation is the person that murdered Laken Riley, he was arrested several times before he even got to her. Yeah. So if they would have followed the law from the very beginning, when they first detained him and they knew that he was here in our country illegally, they should have deported him as soon as they caught him the first time. So Laken Riley and several other Americans will still be alive today if state and local law enforcement officers were ordered to do their job. I'm asking every law enforcement officer that's maybe watching this podcast to think about the oath that you took when you took your oath to office. You swore an oath to protect and to defend the United States Constitution from both foreign and domestic enemies. And as I keep telling people, be mindful that we do not live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic. It's a big difference. And the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So whoever is your superiors, if they're telling you to violate people's constitutional liberties, because Laken Riley's constitutional liberties were violated when we allowed a murderer to kill her, because as we have found out through Homeland Security and Tom Homan, over 11,000 known convicted murderers were released from the prisons in Latin America, and they came into our country. They came from mental institutions. They came from some of the most notorious prisons, and they came here, and they were sent here. So if you're a law enforcement officer and you're violating your oath of office, shame on you. Shame on you, because I would have lost my job. I'm just gonna be honest with you. They would have disfired me, because I'm gonna hold my oath above my superiors, because I took an oath not to my superiors. I took an oath to that Constitution, and that's what we have to get back to. So I believe that Jahana Hayes, when she did vote for that bill, she knew in her heart that it was the right thing to do.
Yeah,
and that's what she did. But then she couldn't take the pressure, because she's a rubber stamp for Christopher Murphy.
Yeah.
So when Christopher Murphy put his foot on her neck and the Democratic Party put the weight and the pressure on her, she started backpedaling, apologizing, and saying that she regrets voting for that bill. So shame on Jahana Hayes. Shame on Jahana Hayes for being the only member of Congress from the state of Connecticut that voted against the Charlie Kirk resolution, which would have condemned his assassination.
Yeah.
Shame on you, Jahana Hayes, for not having a backbone, for not having a moral compass. Where's your faith in God?
Yeah, exactly. I have George Logan destroying her. Let me play that one real quick.
In too many cities, dangerous illegals walk free as police are forced to stand down.
The commercials, unfortunately, because I'm not paying.
I'm going to show you how to do the Japanese natural Ozempic. No fluff.
All right.
That includes supporting our law enforcement Our law enforcement ranks are depleted. We're down 400 state troopers. I've spoken to police chiefs throughout the district. The forces are depleted. And what do we have? My opponent voted in favor of the anti-police bill in Washington. My opponent here in Connecticut has accepted the endorsement of the Connecticut Working Families Party. One of their top objectives is to defund the police. We need to support our law enforcement. We need to give them the resources that they need to do their jobs. We're asking them to do an impossible job. And it is important that we are steadfast. So to accept the endorsement of the Working Families Party, she's going to be on the ballot under the Working Families Party. Look it up yourself. They have called repeatedly for defunding the police. She has indicated that she's happy of their endorsement. I think she used the word proud for an organization where they have such shared values. What values is she talking about? I am the only one on this stage who is unwavering in my support of law enforcement, in my support of our community.
Okay.
Now, this is crazy because George Logan, he condemned her for her getting the endorsement from the Working Families Party, these communist organizations that are advocating for defunding the police, and he said that he stands in support of law enforcement. But the odd thing about him is he didn't want to publicly endorse our commander-in-chief, President Trump. So you're running as a Republican in a predominantly Trump-supporting district. President Trump got over 78% of the vote in the Republican primary against Nikki Haley in the statewide. But in the 5th district, it was well over 80%. If you look at the towns, the cities and towns, you add it up. So I think he was hypocritical. So you condemned her for defunding the police, but yet you basically spit on our commander-in-chief's face after President Trump had numerous assassination attempts on his life. They use lawfare against him, weaponize it against him, and essentially try to put him in prison. And you didn't even want to acknowledge him. You failed to have a backbone. So I condemn them both. And I think they're both terrible for our district. And this is the reason why I'm running. So shame on Jahana Hayes and shame on George Logan. And we got to get this done. We got to support our commander-in-chief first and foremost, and we got to support our law enforcement agencies. We have to support ICE. We have to support our federal law enforcement agencies that are putting their lives on the line every day to protect our borders and our community.
Absolutely. I don't know who in a right mind would want to get rid of people that are literally taking care of us. I always say that becoming law enforcement, you gotta be crazy to do this job. Like, they are not even paying these people enough, in my opinion. And when my best friend told me I'm going to academy, I'm going to be a cop, I was like, what are you crazy? I said, do you understand how much you're putting your life on the line? I'm like gonna be worried about you every single day, basically. Because, not that we do have guns here. And obviously, as much as they do good, they also do bad. And people do die, But just anybody else who, they have to deal with, on a daily basis with, just simply drunk driving, I mean, if we were going to take them off the streets, do you imagine what this country would turn into?
Yeah.
It would have been a devastation. And I think what would have happened, there would be no middle class. I think the houses would be destroyed. Everything would be looting, destroying, killing, and if we don't have them, we have nothing basically. Because who
That's
would
their goal.
uphold the law? Who would like bring these people for justice? They're the only, police and law, any kind of law enforcement when you really think about it.
That's
Because
why they call it law. They call it law enforcement. They got to enforce the law. And if there's nobody to enforce the law, there's going to be a lawless society. And can you imagine living in a lawless society? It'd be like Purge. This is what they want. The Marxists' whole objective is to destroy local law enforcement, because our local law enforcement officers, they live in the community that we live in, right? Wherever we live. They could be a neighbor, but they're trained to protect and serve the community. So the first objective of even Adolf Hitler, it was to get rid of local law enforcement, because you got to create enough chaos first, and then you create dependence on the state, the government, and now the state becomes the police and the law enforcement. But see, you got to have a separation. So that's the thing, because our local law enforcement officers, they took an oath of office to protect and defend the United States Constitution. They're not going to tolerate a Marxist regime coming into power and coming in and taking over. State police, if the state police listen to William Tong, and William Tong tells them to violate our constitutional liberties, like he tried to do with Pastor Jacob Dell out of Woodbury when he sent the state troopers to send a message to him, asking him about a tweet that he made on Twitter saying it sounded threatening, when there was nothing threatening about it. Only thing Pastor Dell said was silence equals death. Because if we don't stand up and speak out, we're essentially condemning ourselves to a spiritual death and possibly a physical death. So William Tong was trying to use his position of power to violate the freedom, the First Amendment of free speech with Pastor Jacob Dell, and he was going to weaponize the state police against a pastor. And I got on Newsmax during my Newsmax interview with John Bachman. I actually brought that up, and John Bachman, right on cue, brought William Tong's picture up, and we talked about William Tong. And within 30 minutes, Pastor Jacob Dell received a text message from the state police saying that the investigation was going to be dropped. So all that bullying, everything that they're doing, it's all a Marxist agenda. So when they try to intimidate Republicans in the state of Connecticut to be fearful of publicly supporting President Trump, that's all psychological warfare. And if you fall for it, you're going to continue to lose elections. So all you candidates out there that's afraid to publicly support our commander-in-chief, shame on you. Because you're the reason why the Democrats in the state legislature got a super majority. You're the reason why we haven't won a federal election in over 2 decades on the congressional level. And in the Senate, it's been almost 40 years since we had a Republican U.S. senator in our state. So I'm here to break up the uniparty of Connecticut, and I'm going to fight you tooth and nail until it's all over. You see these great men behind me? Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, and Harriet Tubman. Yeah, I'm coming to free my people from the control of the Democratic Party, and I'm going to free the Republican Party from the grip of the Democrats, because the Democrats have been infiltrating the Republican Party for decades. That's why we call you rhinos. I'm not calling moderate Republicans rhinos. I'm calling Democrats that's pretending to be Republicans as rhinos. And we got too many of them, starting at the top with our chairman, Benjamin Proto. Mm-hmm. He's King Rhino.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily trust them, just because it's kind of strange that you don't know what you believe in and you would kind of switch like midway, you know? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you know exactly the difference in between Democrats and Republicans. And you've been a Democrat for a very long time. And I'm talking about Congress, okay? Because I understand people, just regular people, can change their minds because it really depends on how everything with the government is rolling. So you have to kind of pay attention to what's going on. But if you are a representative, or you are a senator, or you are in Congress, or either House or Senate or whatever else around anywhere in the government, you want to tell me that you just switched in the middle of the way because you decided that the other party actually works better? Like,
It could happen. I mean, when you think about it, though, that's what Tulsi Gabbard did in RFK.
Yeah.
So it is possible, because I wasn't always a registered Republican. I was an independent, but it got to the point where is that, my left leaning beliefs went out when I started to see how extreme the left was, and it just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make any sense whatsoever for me to be on that side. I knew that, it didn't make sense for a boy to be in girls' sports, or for you to mutilate children, transition and transgenderism, gay pride flags on churches, abortion clinics, aborting babies, taking away people's guns, defunding the police. Like, all of that is insane. Now, there's certain social justice issues that I do believe in. I believe that some environmental issues should be addressed by us. That's why I went to the protest in Hartford when they started putting the chemicals in the waters, for the diquat chemicals that were banned in the UK.
I went there.
Yeah, so I align myself. Listen, I support. Like I tell people, I'm a registered Republican. I'm a real Republican, real. But I'm one of the original. I'm bringing it back to Frederick Douglass. Look, K. Carl Smith, Frederick Douglass Republicans. You got to study the history of the Republican Party. The Republican Party is supposed to be the party of the working class. The party, the unified people. The Republican Party turned into some bougie boys club, yacht club, where they look down on the working class. That's not what the Republican Party is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
That's the party of the Democrats that are hiding in our party. We got to push their ass out and take back the Republican Party, bring it back to the streets, bring it back to the people. That's what I'm going to do. That's what my campaign's about. So everybody out there, if you're listening, please get behind my campaign, because I'm going full steam ahead and I'm taking them all on. And I need your help. So let's get this done.
Yes, we definitely need the help. We need the push. We need donations as well. And everyone who knows me, for my streams, I don't usually ask people to donate if I am not 100% sure where the money is going to go. The money is definitely going to Jonathan's campaign, and it's not like this is any kind of a scam or anything like that. So please, if you can spare a couple bucks to help us turn Connecticut red, we would really appreciate if you could use the links that are in the chat, because the links are being plugged into basically every platform. You can just click on the link and donate, let's say $5, $10. I know we are all extremely hardworking people, and sometimes it's hard for us to spare a couple bucks, but I'm going to tell you guys personally that for me, turning Connecticut red is extremely important, because I would like to see this state to be better and better than what it is now, and more affordable, and have better policies, And like Jonathan said, he was running as an independent. Like, as for me, just because I come from a very conservative country, I kind of am set in my ways. And so for that reason, I would always just stick with Republican Party, the party that believes in God, more likely the party that is, against abortions and basically, they want to run this world the normal way. I'd say the normal way and the way that is normal for me. So not putting pressure on, trying to change genders and trying to mess with people's heads, and stuff like that. I don't like that. I mean, I don't mind if you do that and if you decide to do that, or if want to have, sex with the same gender, like just do that behind closed doors. Not everyone has to know. Like, it doesn't have to be thrown in your face. And I would like to see more embracing of the family and doing a lot of stuff for families, and because they are the future of this country. But now, I want to show another video that I found, and it's kind of a little bit hypocritical because don't the Democrats all about trying to take away our guns? And now Jahana said that, she wants to literally defund the police and law enforcement. But look at this, guys, real quick, because to me, when I listened to this video, I was kind of like, lady, like, what are you talking about? Like, are you for real considering this? I'm, to be honest with you, I don't know how I personally would feel if such a thing was actually done. So just listen carefully and let's talk about it real quick after the video.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Secretary. I know personally that students, teachers, parents are waiting to hear from you, so I want to move this right along. So I'm going to let you know that my questions today will be singularly focused on using federal funds to arm teachers, not about the Freedom Scholarship, not about professional development choice, not about career training. So on May 21st, 2018, the superintendent of the Porter, Oklahoma Consolidated School District, Charles McMahon, wrote to President Trump saying, and I quote, "We have implemented an armed staff policy at my school and was wondering if there is any money or grants that can help. It would be great if there was money for schools that arm and train their staff," end quote. According to records received through a FOIA request by Democracy Forward, this letter was quickly transferred to the Department of Education for a response and became the subject of several emails and senior staff meetings. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter these documents.
Without objection.
Madam Secretary, did the Department of Education provide a response, either orally or in writing, to Superintendent McMahon's request to use federal funds to arm teachers? Yes or no?
Well, Congresswoman, it's not a yes or no answer. First
Did
of
you
all,
respond?
let me
Is
just say,
element- I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to let you do that.
I have
saw
never
you-
advocated
I saw you.
for
I didn't ask that
or
simple
against,
question.
Title
Madam Secretary,
IV.
my question is, did you respond? And I know you know how to answer a yes or no question because I just saw you answer it for my colleague,
But
Ms.
it's not
Fox.
a yes or no
I
answer
just like the
because-
same courtesy. My question is, did you respond? That's it. Just did you respond? Not what your response was. Did you respond? Just did you respond?
Probably ultimately, yes.
Yes. Okay, so there's a limited universe of how you could have responded to this request. Either, yes, you can use federal funds to arm teachers. Yes, you can use federal funds to train teachers. Or no, you cannot use federal funds to do any of these things. Do you know how your office...
Title IV was set up for states to decide how to use the funds.
I'm not there yet.
It was set up for states to decide.
You're jumping
not for
way
the
ahead.
Department of Education.
So the Department of Education can't decide how Title I funds are used?
Title IV funds are to be
Title
decided.
IV, I'm sorry.
Are to be decided by the states. That's how Congress set it up. And that's how we have totally respected that particular setup.
So your position is that Title IV funds, it is not up to you to decide how they can be used?
We have not advocated for nor against, and have.
Is there a do you feel like you can though?
No, Congress set this up.
Okay, thank you.
The Department of Education
Thank you.
did not.
So in August of 2018, it was reported by the New York Times and other outlets that the department was considering the use of federal funds to arm teachers. In all of your previous statements, and even just now, you have maintained that you lack the authority to approve or deny requests to purchase firearms for school staff and taxpayer money and using taxpayer funds under Title 4A.
That is correct.
That is
because
correct.
It's state
Thank you.
decisions.
Mr. Chair, in the documents I've just submitted, there are emails from staff at your department that discuss a decision memo on 4A. Are you familiar with that decision memo?
Not with whatever memo you're citing.
Okay, so I'll tell you what it says. On page 4 of the memo that came out of your department with the advice of your general counsel, it says, the department's office of the general counsel has advised that the secretary has discretion to interpret the broad language of the statute as to its permissiveness regarding the purchase of firearms and the training and use of firearms. It continues on page 7 to say, it is therefore reasonable for the secretary to disallow this particular use of funds absent specific congressional authorization. And it is unlikely that this interpretation would be subject to a successful legal challenge. That is from your department based on advice from your legal counsel. In light of the
As I've
contents
said,
of this
I've neither
memo,
advocated for nor against.
in light of the contents, no, you're absolutely right. You have not advocated for or against. But in light of the contents of this memo, you have the ability to make a decision. Your silence is a decision. You have the authority to say that we cannot use federal funds to arm teachers. You are in line for
States and local
presidential
communities.
secession. Make a decision on this. You have the authority to do it. Will you prohibit the use of federal funds to arm teachers? Yes or no, Madam Secretary?
This is a matter for
Yes or no?
states and local communities
You
to
have the
decide
authority
upon.
to do it. Read your memo.
Congress has the authority to make that decision.
You have the authority, if you so choose. Read the memo.
Wow.
Wow. Imagine.
She's a bully.
Like
The-
I saw that and I was just like, wait a second. Like, whoa. You're trying to propose that teachers supposed to be armed at schools?
No.
And you
I-
think that's
I
such a
think-
great idea that they should bring guns to school?
No. From what I gather from it, it sounds like the states that were seeking resources to arm staff at schools, I think Jahana Hayes was actually going against that.
It
But
was, I don't know. I took it as that's what she wanted it to happen.
Nah, because actually, there's a Ted Cruz. I should have told you about this. There's an interview. Well, not an interview. It's a debate between Ted Cruz and Senator Murphy, because Senator Murphy actually voted against a bill that was in the Senate, which would have brought more school resource officers to protect children in the schools.
Okay,
And
I would
Murphy-
agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah, I would agree with that too. But Christopher Murphy, Mr. Sandy Hook, every time something happens, he bring up Sandy Hook. He voted against more school resource officers against more armed school resource officers.
Yeah.
And the reason why he did this is because he wants they want school shootings. You know why they want school shootings? Because they use it politically to justify violating Americans' Second Amendment liberties to protect themselves, right? To bear arms. And that's why I know Jahana Hayes was not advocating for teachers to be armed, because they want teachers to be defenseless and the children to be vulnerable to an attack. You know, because what she was trying to do was bait that woman to basically say, why didn't you say no? Because they said there's a clause where they could say yes or no in regards to the staff to be trained with firearms to protect the schools. But the person saying, listen, forever, Congress has always left it up to the states to decide how those school funds will be spent. You know, which I believe is the right thing to do. I mean, the right should be brought to the states. She was just baiting her. She was trying to bait her because they wanted. I don't believe that. I mean, you could, you know, you might have, you know, in your opinion, you might see that Jahana Hayes was trying to advocate for teachers to be armed, but I highly doubt that that's what she was trying to do.
Oh,
I think she was basically.
Yeah, it was weird to me that, you know, I found this clip, you know, and I was just sitting there and I'm like,
nah. She was just trying to bait her. She was trying to set. Yeah, she was trying to set her up. She was trying to get her to say, yes, that was all a trick. But Jahana Hayes, that's what she does. That's what she does. She's a bully. And when you talk to her or you debate her, you have to be precise with what you're talking about, and you got to be well versed in the subject matter. But you got to be aggressive. You got to be assertive, very assertive when you're dealing with her. That's why she gets away with her nonsense. She gets away with it all the time. She got away with it right there with that woman. She got away with it when she had Linda McMahon on the House floor. She got away with it with Mike Lawler on CNN, and she got away with it with George Logan. Yeah. So she gets away with this because she's an aggressive candidate. And if you run somebody that's not aggressive, she's gonna keep beating.
I was just gonna say, you know, Logan was just not, you know, he was not strong enough, you know, I think to beat her, even though he would bring up like good points and stuff like that. I don't think
they should have ran George Logan against Joe Courtney in District 2. I mean, he didn't live in my district. He got an apartment in Meriden. He wasn't even from the 5th district. So if you're running candidates that don't live in the district, you might as well run them over there to go against, because Mike France can't do it. Send George Logan to Norwich and New London.
Yeah.
Because he can't handle Jahana Hayes coming to Waterbury. I saw that with my own eyes. And this is the key. Like, Agnes, let's get to the grit of everything, right? The way they draw out these maps, these districts in the state of Connecticut, they do it nationwide, but let's talk about our state. District 4, which is Jim Himes, right? You got Greenwich, Stanford, Norwalk, Bridgeport. Their Cook Partisan Index rating, that's how they rate the districts, by Cook Partisan Index. The Cook Partisan Index rating for District 4 is a D+13. They have the most Democrats than any other district. New Haven, Rosa Dolores District, District 3, their Cook Partisan Index rating is a D+8, right? If you're not going to go into those cities and appeal to Democrats and unaffiliated voters, you're never going to win. It's impossible. It's impossible. You got to go into the cities. That's what I'm doing. You gotta change the mindset of the people in the cities. And with me, in my district, my Cook Partisan Index rating is a D+3. I got the least amount of Democrats than any other district in Connecticut. And really, I'm the only D+3 rated district in all of New England. So I got the best chances of flipping a seat. But I know what I have to do. You're not going to flip a seat talking to Republicans. You got to go into these cities. I agree. You got to win. You got to win. I need 40% of the urban vote split between Danbury, Meriden, Danbury, Waterbury, Meriden, and New Britain. If I don't appeal to the people of Waterbury and the people of New Britain and the people of Meriden and Danbury, I'm not gonna win. I can't win unless I go. I'm doing the work. I go into the most rough areas in the cities, and I talk to people, and they respond to me, and they get excited because they finally have someone that they can relate to, and someone that's actually listening to them and talking to them as a person. Even me myself, I'm a registered Republican. I go to these Republican events, and the people look at me snobbish. They don't even want to acknowledge me. Some of them don't even want to speak to me. But they expect to win a seat. That's why listen. One thing I don't tolerate is disrespect. I respect everybody until you disrespect me. When you disrespect me, now I got to teach you a lesson. That's why I'm spanking on Ben Proto every chance I get. Because when I went to him respectfully in my 3-piece suit with my wife, and I spoke to him man to man, and I introduced myself to him respectfully, he disrespected me. He didn't want to give me no help. He tried to discourage me from running. He told me the only way he's going to help me, I got to tell him how I plan to raise $500,000 by the end of the year. He can't even raise. I'll give Ben Proto 5 years and he can't raise $500,000 in 1 year. He can't do it. So my thing is, I'm going toe to toe with Ben Proto, and I'm going toe to toe with the Democrats and the independents, and I'm gonna beat them all. That's how we're gonna get this done. So, and I got God with me. God is on my side, and the people of Connecticut is on my side, and we getting stronger every day, and that's how we're gonna win. That's why I got invited to the White House already. That's why I've been on Newsmax. That's why you're doing what you're doing, because you believe in me too, and I thank you for that. And you're going to be very instrumental in helping me flip this district, because you got a lot of influence in the Polish community in New Britain, and everybody know that the Polish community got a lot of pull in New Britain, got a lot of weight. So if listen, I got other Polish supporters too, and what I'm trying to tell you, I got Greeks on my team. I got Italians. I got everybody. I'm bringing everybody together. The Albanians love me in Waterbury and Woolkey. That's, believe me, I got a lot of supporters. So, and you know why they support me? Because they know I'm not BSing them. I'm not running a scam. Everybody else is scamming. Everybody else want to read off a piece of paper, sound perfect, and come on, bro. Let's win. Let's start winning the seats. Let's really start fighting and putting our boots on the ground and give some pushback. Well, let me say this before anything happens, before we leave. I want everybody to know that we're having a walk for Jesus, a march in the city of Waterbury this Saturday. Very important. Last time we had about 3,000 people. This time we're hoping that is even more than that. The march is going to be Saturday. Let me find I think it's at 10 a.m. from the Waterbury Mall. Let's see. Very important. You got to put God first. Tell you. So that's going to be at 10 a.m. at the Brass Mills Mall. We're going to be leaving from the Brass Mills Mall. You can't miss us. We got the police departments behind us. We got several churches. I think it's about 28 churches coming together from all over Waterbury. We got churches from New Britain. We got churches from Woodbury. We got churches from all over the state coming in. And we're going to be marching for Jesus. People that like to march for Donald Trump, you like to march for Charlie Kirk, let's march for their Lord and Savior. Let's march for Jesus Christ. Because God, put it in my heart to actually run for public office. And, I wanted to make sure I made that statement. That'd be Saturday in the city of Waterbury. We're marching for Jesus. And we're going to bring everybody together, and we're going to bring prayer back in the forefront of this fight, because we're fighting against some real evil forces. And I think we need to reevaluate. Like right now, I got my Bible right here as I'm having this podcast with you. And and I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect person. I make mistakes like everybody else. And you know, one of my vices is my wife, she always tells me I gotta stop swearing. I swear a lot. Not a lot, but I swear I slip up sometimes, and I swear because I'm a very passionate person. I'm passionate, you know. It's not to be disrespectful, but I know I got to work on that. But you know, we're gonna get this done. But I just wanted to plug in that, you know, some people plug in, you know, nonsense. I want to plug in, you know, spiritual health, because that's essential for me. That's how I stay focused and I stay fearless, because I know God got me. So
let me ask you a question. What kind of policies would you like to implement once you get in? What are you actually going to be advocating for? And how do you think you can change our lives for the better?
All right. For the first and foremost, I definitely want to create a pathway and a bridge to success for people who have been on government dependent programs for long periods of time, right? Any type of government programs that are federally subsidized, either SNAP benefits, Section 8 housing, you know, medical insurance. I want a mandatory requirement to be put in place for people to be enrolled into a job training program. You know, and people that have mental health issues, people that have physical disabilities, I want them to be reevaluated by doctors that we send them to, because we have to start finding work for people. Now, if they can't work, then that's fine. Then you won't have to work, you know. But the people that could work, we got to get them back to work. And that's going to be one of the things that I want to do. I want to create a bridge to success. And a lot of these programs that the Democrats push is designed to keep people dependent on the government. So let's say you're getting Section 8, or you're getting SNAP benefits. But if you get another job, they'll cut you off your benefits, but the other job's not enough to support you so that you could pay your rent. You can't afford to pay your rent. So you stay where you're at. So with the bridge to success, what we would do is we would encourage and motivate people to get another job so that they can make a little bit more money. But we won't just cut them off their government assistance and put them out in the street. What we'll do is we'll subsidize the portion of the rent that they can't pay, right? It's still going to benefit us in the long run, because instead of paying their full rent, we're only paying the portion that they can't sustain themselves on. But even with that, they still will be enrolled in a system in which they will find more, you know, a better job, right? More opportunities. Whether it's going back to school to get a degree, or go to vocational school to get vocational training. You know, we got to have paired them with mentors, right? Like President Trump, he had back in 2020, before they stole the election. He had a plan, and it was called the Platinum Plan, and the plan came actually from Ice Cube. Ice Cube brought this plan to Eric Trump and Trump's administration, and it was basically a contract for Black America. And inside this program that Trump actually adopted, if you look it up, it's called the Platinum Plan. He was talking about he wanted to invest over $500 billion into the Black community to help create 500,000 new Black entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's awesome. To be honest with you, I love people that would want to work for themselves and create new businesses.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Exactly. And the reason why Trump was going to do this is because he knows that the Black community has been handicapped intentionally by the Democrats. You know, when you got 75% of high school graduates graduating in the city of Waterbury and they can't read and write on their grade level, but they're pushing them out into the world, not knowing how to read and write. You're essentially creating a criminal. Either they're either going to commit a crime or they're going to be dependent on the government. So President Trump actually is that's why he started investing more money in HBCUs, historical black colleges and universities. But unfortunately, those college campuses have been hijacked by Marxists. So it's like you're giving these schools money, and they're taking the money and they're either money laundering it into, nonprofits that are promoting Marxist ideology on the campuses. I mean, we gotta vet these professors that are in these college campuses and see what's being taught. Because obviously it's not working. But I feel as though that's why Charlie Kirk came out with the Black Leadership Summits, and he was going around college campuses across the country with Candace Owens and creating and developing a pathway for leadership within the Black community. And his goal was to empower Black men and restore Black men to being the head of their households again. So because he knew that, the absentee fathers, that's the biggest threat to the Black community.
That's a lot. Yeah. It happens a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to break the pattern unless we will start, educating people better, I would say. It also
it starts with the Bible.
Well, it does start with the Bible, obviously. Bible says one, but now what are you doing if someone actually is not religious? How do you try to convince them that a family and being an alpha type and being a provider, how do you going to implement this in them? Like you have to educate them a certain way.
Economics. I mean, if you look at 2-parent households, when you got dual incomes coming in, and you look at generational wealth, it starts at home. Like if you got kids that are raised in a 2-parent household, they're 93% more successful than the kids that grow up in a single-parent household. So statistics, if you look at the statistics, it's a fact. Like even if you remove religion out, and I'm not suggesting anybody do this, but I'm saying when you remove religion out of the equation, you see that. But to be honest with you, for most families that you see 2-parent households sticking together, most of them are religious. They believe in God, because
absolutely. I agree with that.
That's what God promotes. But as far as people that are not religious as of yet, or not, I would just talk about the economics side of things. Like, it just, you're more successful 2-parent households and raising kids in a healthy environment. They have a better chance of being more successful than someone that's growing up in a single-parent household.
Yeah, you just said it. I think what we have to start talking about more is that the responsibility of having kids. I think what right now also comes into play, the whole abortion thing, like if there's 2 people having certain activities, it can happen, right? So I see people not being responsible for their, actions and just bailing out, and that is just extremely sad, for me, because I said it yesterday, I would love to have a family, but I'm not able to. And so it kind of is really upsetting that a lot of people just have kids like just because they decided to have one night stand, and then they are literally not taking care of them. And it's mothers and fathers, because we can't classify just one. But it's happening a lot, and I do see that happening a lot. And they do decide to get an abortion because we made a mistake, but we don't want to have a family. We're not going to raise this kid. The kid is a burden. It's going to cost a lot of money. I'm going to be tied down, and I don't actually want to be with this person. It's kind of sucks that the society has actually turned into that way. Those people are just can say, I'm going to get an abortion because I don't want to be responsible for what just happened. The responsibility should be the first thing that we teach people. If you go and have sex, I'm going to say it, and if you are going to make a baby, you need to take a responsibility for that baby. And and I don't even know if by law we are even able to have something implemented that it's gonna all right, you're not taking care of your child, you don't want to have anything to do with your child, whatever, I don't know, you're gonna pay extra tax or something, but I don't know, I feel like it's just so hard for a lot of people and a lot of individuals to step up to the plate. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I got it right now. Step up to the plate. If you do have a child, you need to take care of the child. You need to, pay your child support, and you need to do better than just 2 weekends a month. The kids need both mom and a dad. And, in the past, I was kind of a little crazy, and I really wanted to have a child, and I decided to be a single mom, and I got pregnant through artificial insemination. And unfortunately, I lost the baby, and since then, I was doing a lot of stuff around the politics, around just people around the world, United States and stuff like that. And honestly, I don't think any child should have to be raised with just one parent, and then it's just kind of sad because you need to learn from your mom and you need to learn from your dad. And if you just don't have that discipline and that routine in your life, the possibility of you turning into the wrong direction is huge. This is why, like you mentioned, the community of, Afro-Americans and the guys are not the best partners, and they are not the best dads, and that they're staying in a relationship, So what are we going to do to change that? How are we going to try to, present the life and, that we change these people?
I think I know a lot of great black dads in our state.
I'm not saying all.
No. I know that. I think we need to promote them. Promote the dads that are doing the right thing, and give them, because it's not easy when you grow up in an environment that. Because prior to this all started, if you study history, and that's what Charlie Kirk was saying, and people thought that he was a racist when he wasn't. He was just stating the facts. Before civil rights, before integration, before the 1960s, the black families actually were more successful. You had more two-parent households back then than you do today. But a lot of it had to do with the factories, right? You had a lot of factories, a lot of work, a lot of opportunities here in the state of Connecticut, where you had people coming from the South, you had people coming from all over the country and outside the country to work, and you had a lot of two-parent households. But once those factories were closed down and outsourced overseas for cheap labor, there was a lot of depression that came into the communities, and unfortunately, it hit the black community extremely worse than other segments of society, because a lot of the African Americans that came from the South, unfortunately, weren't that educated, but they were hard workers. And the reason why they weren't educated, it wasn't that they were genetically, intellectually inferior. It was the fact that for 400 years of being a slave, of generations of slavery, it was illegal for Black people to learn how to read. So if you handicap generations of people and you prevent them from learning how to read and write, and you only teach them how to actually work with their hands, they're hard workers, yes, but once you take away their capabilities of actually working, like when they took the factories away, a lot of them fell to the wayside. They became alcoholics. They became, when drugs came into the community, the drugs, some people became victims of using the drugs, and some people became the sellers of the drug. They were selling drugs because it was a market. It was a Black market and an opportunity to take care of themselves and their family members. They weren't looking at it as a way of destroying their community. Oh, you're poisoning your own community. They're looking at it like, this is a way for me to take care of my family. So now this mentality of survival, it brings out the worst in anybody. And you push anybody's back up against the wall, and you give them an opportunity to survive, they're gonna survive. So, and that's what happened. But I think the best thing that we can do as far as continue what Charlie Kirk was trying to do, which was actually explain to the African American community, the Black community, to let them know that you are not a victim. You are not oppressed. The only oppression and limitations that you have are the limitations that you place on yourself. And he's given them the solutions to their salvation. Like I said, the church, the Black church, the churches. Listen, join the church, get involved, and don't just join any church. You got to join a church that's feeding you spiritually and feeding you the right things. Because if you're going to a church and the church is bashing Donald Trump and the church is bashing Republicans and the church, that's not a good church. And the reason why is because I've been all over the state. I've been all over the country, and I've been in rooms where I was the only Black guy in the room, and I never felt threatened. I never felt disrespected. I always felt loved and appreciated whenever I was around Trump supporters. So the media is definitely manipulating the Black community, and unfortunately, a lot of Black churches are being paid by the Democrats to instill fear, hatred, and they're planting the seed. They're planting the seed of hate inside the churches, and that's why Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And you have so many Blacks all across America celebrating, unfortunately, the death of a man that came. The death of a man that came to actually help them. It reminds me of when the Jews killed Jesus.
Yeah,
Jesus came with a message of salvation, and his own people killed him, and they celebrated his death. Yeah, so I mean, it's just terrible. So
yeah,
but I to answer your question, I think we just got to work on it, and we got to celebrate the ones that are actually doing a great job. So all the Black dads that are out there, you're building your families with your wives and your children. I salute you and I respect you and I appreciate you, and become a mentor. There's a lot like me. I never grew up with both parents in my household. My parents got divorced when I was 4 years old. Like I never experienced the two-parent household. So, but I'm not gonna blame my parents. I'm not gonna blame society for my mistakes. I'm gonna hold myself accountable for the mistakes that I made, in my life, and I'm gonna accept responsibility for those, and then I'm just gonna change my behavior. I mean, I have, I change. You just got to change your behavior, and you're gonna stumble, you're gonna fall, but just get yourself back up, and you got to find somebody that you can follow. You got to follow, and that's why I said the churches, you meet a lot of good families in these churches, and you can learn how to be a great dad or a good father, because unfortunately a lot of people in these communities, they don't have good examples of what a good dad is.
Example is really important, but even though if you did get an example, sometimes you don't follow those steps, because those steps may be way too hard for people to follow, because having a family, being responsible, being a provider, it's not really an easy task to do nowadays. I believe that in the 60s it was a lot easier, because the society kind of expected that family dynamic with the dad working and mom, taking care of the kids and the household. Right now you have to have two people working, and those roles have gotten a little, how do I say it? They kind of drifted away. Now you have to have two people taking care of the household. You have to have the two people doing all these responsibilities, and the finances with the families is usually a lot, and people do get divorced because of the finances. And I believe if people have easier finances, they will have easier life and they will get along better, But just to bring you back to my original question, because we talked about the jobs, what would you like to see? What kind of policies, you would like to see? What would you like to see happening for people in Connecticut when you get elected? So I understood you are saying that you would like for people who are currently not working or working very low income jobs, you would like for them to get into some kind of program that will allow them to better themselves, right? So that's one thing. And then what?
And that I brought that up because it's going to segue into your next question, which is, with that, getting people off of government assistance is going to actually help us to reduce the tax burden on everybody else. So now you could pretend because now you got people who are on government assistance getting off, transition into the workforce, and now they're paying state and federal income taxes. So it's reducing the tax burden on everybody else. So now we could start reducing and cutting taxes on the middle class so that you could keep more of your money in your pocket and you could afford to stop working those extra hours, or you could quit one of your extra jobs because your money is going to remain with you instead of going to the government to take care of people who are on government assistance. And another thing is 70, I think it's 70% of our income, our property taxes, I should say, goes towards the public school system.
Yes,
I don't think that's fair. I mean, if you're like me and my wife, we pay a lot in property taxes, but we don't have kids. So I don't think it's right that we have to pay 70% of our state property taxes to support a public school, and the public schools are graduating 75% of the kids can't read and write. So something's wrong. I feel as though that I would try to propose a bill where is that, any type of money that's coming to the Board of Ed, if they're not performing, if these kids are not performing on their grade level, by the time they get to high school, even
They need to
before
go
then.
to a special school. They need to go to
Yeah,
a
it's
special school and
I'm all for school choice. I'm a big firm advocate for school choice, and I just feel as though that this public school system should be penalized. Like some of the money should be held back as far as property taxes. I believe that people's property taxes should be cut, should be reduced.
Yeah.
Especially in the state of Connecticut. Why are you paying 70% of your property taxes for a public school system that doesn't teach these kids anything? They're graduating kids that can't even read and write. I'd rather, and the overhead for the public schools is way more costly and expensive than a private charter school, or we got homeschool parents. If you're a homeschool parent, why are you paying 70% of your property taxes to go to a public school? And your kids are being taught at home. You should get a tax break. You should get a tax break on your property taxes instead of penalizing and trying to weaponize the state government like they're doing here in Connecticut to attack homeschool parents. They should be encouraging homeschool parents to become, better. Because what if these homeschool parents start taking in other kids from the community? And then you know what's gonna happen? Okay, you got the teachers unions. They're saying, well, the homeschool parents, they don't got college degrees, and how do we know that these kids are being taught? The same way the city of Waterbury, and I'm pretty sure every other major city in the state of Connecticut, got a shortage of teachers, and you're hiring substitutes. Some of them are high school graduates. They just graduated from high school, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. They're the substitutes right now in these public schools without a college degree, teaching your kids right now. And you're paying 70% of your income so that a high school graduate that can't read and write on his grade level, he doesn't know how to read and write cursive writing. He's teaching your kid how to read and write, and he can't read and write himself. But yeah, you're paying 70% of your property taxes for a substitute teenager to teach your kid how to read and write. That's the same way you're allowing that nonsense. You could allow a mom or a father to teach their kids at home and reduce their property taxes because they're keeping their kids at home and they're actually doing a better job at teaching their kids than you are. So
yeah, I mean, you're definitely onto something with that, but are we then just risking that some of the people are not going to send the kids to school because they're going to have lower taxes, but they're actually not going to teach them absolutely anything, and they're just going to be wandering around the streets, And then also, I believe if you do take your kid out of the socializing aspect in school and taking all that experience from them, not to mention the indoctrination that is happening in our schools, and everything that is bad. I would love for my child to go to school and have the experience that I had, all the friends or the playing or like everything that I went through, even though it not always been the greatest for me, believe it or not. I also was bullied at school, but it didn't really affect me that much, because I'm kind of like a hard-headed type of a person, and I don't really take things personally, and I don't care, But I got into some fights with, higher grades girls because they just didn't like me for some reason. They didn't like my guts, And nowadays, a lot of people do not like my guts, But I don't care, But all of this that I have experienced, one time I remember I got slapped in my face by someone, and if you do think bullying here in America is bad, it's everywhere and it has started a long time ago. But what I'm going to tell you is I always stood up for myself, and I never ever let anybody do anything to me, even if it meant physical. I didn't care. I would literally die. They would probably, I don't know, beat me or whatever, but I would not let anybody talk to me, in a bad way or whatever, I would always just try to squish that, even though I didn't have anyone behind me helping me with anything. Because in a middle school, I changed schools 3 times, so I had to make friends, from the beginning. And the older you are, it's harder to actually make friends. And then don't you think now you're saying, oh, let's lower my taxes. So that means if I had a kid, let's say from $8,000, I would pay 4 now. But am I actually going to send that child? I mean, am I actually going to teach that child and spend the time needed? Or are we just going to have now a population of completely dumb people not knowing anything?
I mean, but I think about this though. Think about this. The average person that owns a home, right? Because it's only going to affect the homeowner, right? Because if you're renting, you're not paying property taxes anyway. So if you're a homeowner, more than likely, you're responsible, right? And
I would hope so.
You would hope so, right? And if you're a responsible homeowner, you should want your child, because your child is I don't want to call a child a property, but your child is more valuable, should be more valuable than your house. So I would think that if you want to reduce your property taxes, and you want to homeschool your kid, I would assume that you would want to prepare your child so that your child could be successful, so that your child could get out of your house when it's time for them to get out of the house, and they won't have to come back into your home. They'll be more successful, because any parent, I know if I was a parent, I would want my child to be more successful than me, because that's how you break generational curses, right? You gotta you take all your mess ups, all your mistakes. You teach your child from those experiences, so that their child don't have to repeat that same cycle, right? So, but to your point, you're right. There may be parents that may just I don't want to pay $6,500 a year. I could reduce it to $5,000. I'll say $1,500 a year. I'm gonna keep my kid at home. That could happen, but at the same time, I mean, we got to do something. I mean, this is crazy what they're doing right now. You're paying all these property taxes, and it's a fact. This is not a myth. Like, what I'm saying is, it's not a myth. You can look it up. 75% of the kids that are graduating from schools in Connecticut, they can't read and write on their grade level. That's nuts. They can't do math efficiently. Like, I think the numbers are just, especially when it comes to math, is just terrible.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
but my thing is, so we're already getting screwed. You're getting screwed. You're paying a lot of taxes, and these kids they're not learning anything. So what's worse? I'd rather parents get tax breaks on their property taxes and take a gamble that they're going to actually teach their kids at home, because they're going to school, they ain't learning, and we're having to pay for it. That's an idea. I mean, that's something that I won't have any real say over that, because that's a state issue anyway. Property taxes. You know what I'm saying? But I would advocate for whatever I could do on a federal level. I would advocate for finding a way to reduce property taxes, and try to encourage people on the state level to pursue those avenues. That's why with my campaign, I'm actually going around the state, not just my district. I'm going around the state, and I'm finding people who are interested in running for state office. Last election cycle, unfortunately, the Democrats in the state legislative body had over 48 uncontested seats. Republicans didn't even run against them. So I'm actively finding people from the communities that are, predominantly Democrat, and I'm getting them to register as Republican. And we plan to run some candidates next year because they'll be on the same ticket as mine. And we're going to run a team. We're going to run teams, and we're going to run against these these Democrats, and we're going to put some Republicans back in the state legislative body. And I have some current, a current state senator and a current state rep that's actually going to help mentor the candidates that I find, so that, they could actually explain to them what the job is entailing, and what their role would be and what their responsibilities would be in representing their districts. So that's my contribution to the state as a congressional candidate, because I know I can't do a lot of things on the state level, but I have some great ideas, and I want to make sure that when I go to Washington, D.C., and I do things on a federal level, I want to have good communication with our state representatives, so that we could work out, different policies that could actually help the people on the ground level. So,
Yeah. I would say definitely focus on just the regular people, regular people that work regular jobs, and especially those who are working low income jobs. I really feel bad for them. I really do, because I am lucky to where I am usually a motivated type of a person, and I find my ways all over the place to make money, and I am not afraid to work 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs, and doing various things to make things happen in my life. But I understand not everyone is like that, and sometimes they just need some kind of an outlet, to be able to do something better, to be able to, better themselves somehow, get some courses, get opportunities. And I know it's hard. This state is particularly hard because I was looking for a work from home job as a customer service, or like whatever, claim representative, or something like really low level, that pays you something like $16, $17 an hour. And to get into that kind of field is extremely hard, and especially in blue states. Why? Because all the policies, they don't want to hire in the state because your minimum wage is a lot higher than the rest of the states, basically. And no one wants to just actually open their branch, in Connecticut to actually hire Polish agnes. And I've noticed that Democratic states are mostly excluded from huge companies that are hiring from work from home, jobs. And I was like, why is that? Why can I not get at least one job that will hire me with a high school diploma as a customer service? I think I would do all right. You can understand my English, right? I think there are a lot worse English speaking people when you call customer service, right? So I was just like, this is crazy. New York, Connecticut, Illinois, and California excluded from most of big companies that were hiring. And I'm just like, there's something screwed up, They must be making it a lot harder here because, Democrats usually like to make things harder than they should be, for just regular people. And I'm like, if I was in a position where I had to look for work now, and go work in Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's or one of these jobs, I think my life would have been extremely miserable. Because while you're making $16 an hour, you are not getting even $2,000 a month. And 3 bedrooms in New Britain is $1,800 now. So if you have 2 kids, Well, even if you have two people with two incomes making minimum wage, how are you going to survive? You have to better yourself. You have to get better jobs. But then in the end, you also need people that are going to be doing those jobs, you know?
Yeah. And that's why I talk like I went to McDonald's the other night. I'm sadly to say I know I should eat more healthier, but I stopped at McDonald's and I seen a young man working. It was late and I could tell that he was focused and he was determined. I don't know if he was a shift manager or supervisor. And I gave him my card. I introduced myself to him and I actually said, you know, I'm actually looking for people like yourself that's interested in running for state as a state representative or a state senator. I would like to talk to you because the reason why is because the pay rate for the average state representative in the state of Connecticut is like $40,000, right? So it's a very low paying job. People don't want to take on the stress and the burden, you know, for a job that's only paying 40 grand. I mean, I'm pretty sure you get medical benefits, you get state benefits, but they don't want the job. That's why they can't find people to actually run. But I think they're asking the wrong people to run. That's why. Because if you find people that are already making 40 grand a year at fast food restaurants, why can't they go work in the state capitol? There's nothing. If you're telling me you got a super majority of Democrats at the state legislative body, right? Attorney General William Tong is filing frivolous lawsuits against the Trump administration, millions of dollars wasted of our taxpayers' money, not to protect the citizens of Connecticut, to protect illegal migrants. He's fighting the Trump administration because the Trump administration is penalizing our state because we're not in compliance with the federal government because we're not cooperating with ICE, right? So because President Trump can't determine and the federal government can't determine if we're spending our federal dollars on illegal migrants or not, he's cutting our funding off. So now we got to suffer. That's why they got a government shutdown right now.
Yes, I know.
They got it. So all the Democrats are sacrificing American taxpayers, veterans, everybody. They're putting us on the cutting board because they're more concerned about their illegals that they allowed into this country during the Biden administration. That's why. But now they want to blame President Trump for the hardships that we're about to face in our state.
Yeah.
It has absolutely nothing to do with President Trump. It has everything to do with our local politicians, our state politicians, and our federal politicians. Jahana Hayes and her whole crew, Rosa DeLaura, John Larson, Jim Hines, Joe Courtney, all of them. They all should be ashamed of themselves because they sacrificing our fellow Americans to protect illegal migrants. And to me, that's a violation of their oath of office. And they all should be thrown in jail. Attorney General William Tong should be arrested and put in prison. That's where he should go. So should Christopher Murphy for violating the Logan Act, meeting with Zelensky behind President Trump's back, trying to interfere with the peace treaty between Ukraine and Russia, because you want to keep this proxy war between Russia and Ukraine going so you can money launder our tax dollars into your own pockets. Talking about you spent $800,000 in hotel rooms in Ukraine, Christopher Murphy. You should go to jail too.
Yeah.
They're crooks. So
yeah. And no, I mean, speaking of that, let me just plug in the reel you sent me about Jahana. All right, let's see if we can get this going.
Wow. That's terrible.
Yeah, so basically, it doesn't seem like people are very important for her. And I read her response to why was she not present. She said, like, well, she was already there and there was no flights back, you know?
They found numerous flights back. She's a
I
member.
mean, drive?
Listen, she
Can
could
you
have.
drive?
Yeah, listen. They would have made a flight for her. She's a congresswoman. You think they
Yeah.
would have never got her back? Come on now. That's nuts. That's nuts.
Yeah, but things like that happen. You know, Chicago is really not that far. You can get in a car, you can rent a car, you can drop it off here, because I've done it multiple times. When I went to Texas, I drove there, okay? And you can just get in a car and you can drive back to Connecticut where you belong and be with your people when you say they are so important for you. And obviously,
Exactly.
we're not.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't
Because
care.
you're having fun when people are losing their homes. I actually know personally a person who lost a whole entire duplex because the river, it was kind of far, but then in the end, it was not far. It literally took half of the house. So they demolished the whole entire house. It's gone. Well, luckily it was paid off because it's one of my landlord friends. And
Yeah.
you know, it was a house that he owned for a very long time and he was already able to pay it off. But he literally lost the house completely in that river, you know? And I'm just like, a lot of us has lost a piece of a property, I don't know, like got flooded and whatever. And then where is her input in all of this? Like, where are the fundraisings? Like, what are you doing something for us?
Nope. Because she don't care. She got her money. She was spending $13,000 on oysters while people were struggling, losing their businesses, losing their livelihood. She didn't care. You know?
I don't not like people that don't care, you know, and I think sometimes, you know, people in government are just out for themselves and they treat it as a job and they don't care what's going on because they're taking the money for it. You are forgetting that once you get elected and you are in the government, you are working for people. You're not working for a current government, for Trump or whatever, any other officials.
No.
You are hired by us, regular people. We pay you your salary.
Exactly.
And they seem to forget that.
Exactly. They do. They look down on us. And my thing is, why are we asking permission? That's a mistake we make. Like, every single state should be Constitution carried. Like, why are you asking permission?
Yes.
That's what a permit is. You asking the government for permission to bear arms. Like, and it clearly says, you know, your right to bear arms shouldn't be infringed upon. So, and the reason why I brought that up is to say this, like, we vote for these people and then they treat us like we're their children. And we got to ask them for permission to listen. These people are crazy. When they could weaponize DCF to go against parents for homeschooling their kids and not putting vaccines in their children.
Exactly.
You know, like, who are they? Who are they? We put them there and then they get there and then they rule over us with an iron fist. It's nuts.
Yeah, I know. It's extremely upsetting here in Connecticut. Now there was no religious exemption for what, 2 years now, I think, or longer than that. I can't remember. Not too long time ago, you know, our lovely governor decided that, you know, that's what he's going to sign, and you no longer can use a religious exemption for anybody, basically, especially your kids, and all the kids have to be vaccinated because they're not gonna be able to go to school. And then also the whole entire COVID thing, when the Connecticut was one of the states when the masks at school for kids were mandated the longest time, you know, from any other state. And I'm just like, if I had a child in that moment, my child would be pulled from school, and I will be the one homeschooling my child.
Yeah.
I will not. I will not. You know, there are some things that I don't agree with government and for kids wearing masks when we now know, you know, they do more damage than they did good, you know, within this whole entire time. I think it was a whole entire year they had to wear the masks, or maybe half a year. I can't remember, after they went back to schools from, you know, like remote learning. And I'm just like, you are going to ruin my child. Like, what are you doing, people? Like, there's going to be health issues after wearing a mask for 8 hours a day, every day.
Yeah. No, you're right. They don't care though. But look how many of them got caught partying from Obama, right? Nancy Pelosi, they all Gavin Newsom. They all were going out partying, and they wasn't wearing no masks. They wasn't getting the shots because they're full of crap. I'm just telling you, man. But the thing is, the reason why they get away with it is because they don't got no opposition. And this is something I want to make clear before we end tonight. I want everybody to understand that we don't live in a blue state. We live in a purple state. The only reason why this state ain't red is because we don't got no opposition for the Democrats. I just told you we have 48 uncontested seats in the state legislative body. Republicans in Connecticut are soft. They're soft. They're not assertive, they're not aggressive, and that's why they keep losing. You keep losing. You know how they can't wait, how much they can't wait to bring back the days of George Bush and Dick Cheney and Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. They want to bring those days. They hate Trump. That's why Ben Proto, our state chairman, said he wouldn't even want to eat dinner with Trump because he's terrified of Trump. They're terrified of Trump because Trump is bringing real opposition to the establishment, and he's not compromising, and he's fighting back. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you that Trump is perfect or Trump says and does everything that I agree with. I don't agree with. I'm married. Me and my wife, we don't agree with everything with each other, you know. But that's just normal. Like I'm not telling everybody, oh, you got to agree with everything Trump says and everything Trump does. You're not going to agree with everything I believe in and my policies. You might not agree with everything. But what I'm saying is we got to have a common ground, and we got to meet each other somewhere in the middle to get something done. And that's why I'm asking everybody to back me in my campaign, because I'm the only one that's going to go into them cities and get that 40% of that vote to actually win a federal election. Nobody else is doing it but me.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you to back me.
I wanted to ask anybody who's watching if there's basically anybody from Connecticut, or if you guys are interested in our conversation here. Do you guys possibly maybe have any questions for Jonathan before we wrap this up, because it's basically almost 2 hours, So I wanted to see if anyone wants to ask you anything, or if we do have any Connecticut viewers at this point. I know there was people in Facebook that were watching from Connecticut, and James here stated that we are needing help in manufacturing, especially since the tariffs are bringing jobs back to the USA. And I do agree with that. I think Connecticut is a huge manufacturing state. And, if we can push those businesses to open more factories here, I think we will have a chance to actually lower the taxes, because mill rates in our cities in Connecticut are also driven by how much business we have in in those cities and how much taxes actually those businesses are paying into the city at this point. So the minute that we get more businesses, more companies investing here, we do have a possibility of lowering the taxes that way. So I am waiting to see if anyone has anything to ask you, maybe possibly. I'm gonna go check my Rumble and X. You know, it's funny. I was doing all this running around, and they actually blocked my account on Twitter X. And I went on there because, you know, now it's more of a conservative than it is used to was Democratic type of platform, you know. And I'm like, oh my God, my account is blocked? Like, why? I did not even get any indication why they blocked my account, you know, but I'm thinking it's because they didn't like, you know, any Republican talk. So they just decided to block it and told me it was against the community guidelines. So I wrote to X and I was like, I do not understand why my account is blocked. Please review it and let me know what the problem is, because at least I would like to know what was the reason, an actual reason for blocking it. And they did not respond anything. And about like 2 weeks later, I remembered that I'm like, you know, I wonder what's going on with that. So I went on there and it was unblocked. I was like, okay, well, that was quick.
Yeah.
So they didn't really actually wanted to admit the fact that, you know, they blocked it for some certain reason, because it was probably the political talk that I've done and all this streaming. I mostly just stream there, you know, but now I am getting a lot of views, you know, with that podcast that we're doing from X, you know, which is great.
Nice.
And I'm trying to find my chat again, you know. Oops, we don't want that. How do I don't know again how to click on this. Where is the chat? Oh, I have the chat. Well, there's only my sweet moderator in the chat, so there is no questions right now. You know, people sometimes are a little shy into asking questions, but I'm going to ask again, everyone who is going to see this video later, because not everyone, you know, joins live. But I'm going to ask you guys to donate to Jonathan's campaign. And, you know, all the links you can find in the chat. You can find it on Facebook, you know, underneath our video. And also in any kind of chats on Rumble, on X as well. The links were plugged in. And I'm also going to show you real quick Jonathan's page. So this one is for donating. So it looks like this. And then you have a possibility of donating. They already suggesting 25, 50, but when you do click order, you can basically pick whichever how much money you wanted to donate. You can also cover the processing fee for him, so the whole entire amount will go straight to his account. And then there is another website that he is using for the donation. And where right here. No, this one. There we go. So that's the second one that we will be using for the donations. And as you can see, it also suggests the amount here. You can do it monthly. You can just do it one time. It will be great. It has some questions here to answer. They're not that big of a deal questions. And it does have a PayPal, which is great because I know a lot of people just uses this. It's a lot easier than looking for your card in your wallet, you know. And then I wanted to show you guys Jonathan's website that he has for where are you? Now I have so many things opened. Is it this one? This one. There we go. So this is Jonathan's website. If you guys like to go and read his description, look at that picture and assume you're a very presentable man, sir. And key issues: the fight for our children, protect parental rights. That is very important. No to indoctrination. That's also important. A school choice. I think that's a big one for parents as well. The law enforcement that we talked about, ensure the qualified immunity, funding for outdated departments, multicultural training. I like that. There is plenty that Jonathan is going to advocate for us, and obviously that's all under God, and obviously you talked about yesterday a little bit about how you lost your son, so like being basically against the abortion is probably something you would want to also advocate for. Am I correct?
Yes, I'm a pro-life candidate. I actually have it on my website and I keep it on my business cards. I'm actually having we have a pro-life event in Waterbury in October that we're going to, me and my wife, but on my business cards, I actually have it listed pro-life. So,
Yeah.
so because unfortunately, George Logan, the Republican that ran last time, he misled people in the beginning and pretended that he was pro-life, and then he couldn't take the pressure and he changed his position, became a pro-choice candidate, and he probably lost, I don't know how many thousands of pro-life voters because of that inconsistency. So I wanted to make sure that it's on my card, it's on my website, and I explain to you why I'm a pro-life candidate. So you'll know that I'm not going to compromise on that policy issue.
So when would possibly you be having a debate with Jahana Hayes?
The debate, listen, before I debate Jahana Hayes, I'm gonna have to go through all the Republican candidates that they plan to run against me in the primary. In the primary, the way the process is, I gotta get 15% of the delegates from the RTCs to back me, to endorse me in convention. The convention will be in May. Next May. After, I'll give you the exact date for the convention. And it'll be sometime in May. Let's see if I got the date. I saved this other day. Next year. Republican convention. It should be Saturday. No, actually, Friday the 15th, May 15th, I believe it is, at Mohegan Sun. That's going to be the convention. The convention, that's when all the delegates come from all over the state, and they have a state convention. And only the delegates from the 41 cities and towns in the 5th district could vote for me to be their representative for Congress against Jahana Hayes. And then Rosa Dolores delegates from the 3rd district and John Larson's and all those district 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then 5. We all will have our convention next year and at the same time. And I think I don't know if it's one day or over a weekend. It's gonna be at Mohegan Sun. And if I get the endorsement of the state party from the 15% of the delegates, I'll be the endorsed candidate. And then if there still is a primary after that, it'll be in August. I believe it's the 11th. That'll be a primary. So before the primary, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a debate between the Republican candidates that want to challenge me in the primary. And after that, that's when, after I win the primary election, that's when I'll start having my debates with Jahana Hayes, probably around sometime either late August, September, or October, somewhere around that time period. Yeah. You know, so it's a long road, it's a long pathway to victory. If I don't get the 15% of the delegates, the Batman convention, that means I have to get the signatures to get on the ballot. The signatures will probably be about a little over 4,000 signatures. So I'm gonna need probably about, I don't know, maybe 100 to 200 people to come into my district, and even the ones that are in my district, whoever is willing to volunteer and help out, they just got to do door knocking to get the signatures. And so that's how it's gonna be. So.
Well, so tomorrow, you know, I sent you that we are having a debate in between a woman and a man for a New Britain mayor, you know, and so I am thinking to go there tomorrow and see if I can stream it, you know. And see what these candidates all about. You know, for a very long time we had Aaron Stewart, who is a Republican and who also just announced that she raised needed funds and she is exploring a run for governor. You know, so now it's going to be kind of important, you know, to also keep New Britain Republican, you know. So I do not want them to change, because our lives in New Britain, when the Democrat Party was running this city was a shit show. It was terrible. It was terrible. The crime, it was just out of control. And they did not care about anything. At least now we got new roads, you know, we got a lot of stuff done, a lot of project happen, you know, businesses got brought to New Britain. Like, I do not want all these businesses to run away because we're gonna, you know, pick a Democratic representative, mayor now. Like, you know, and for us, for me and you, and because, you know, New Britain is in your district, you know, that is going to be bad. You know, so yeah, I wanna make sure, if I can, I want to okay, someone has a question. So I want to make sure that we keep New Britain the way it was, and we keep New Britain Republican. So, you know, if we do, that will definitely help with votes for you, you know. But once we start switching the cities into Democratic cities, like, I wouldn't really like that. So I have a question for you in the chat. How big is the population of your district?
The population is a little over 748,000 people.
Okay, 748,000. So, do you know any percentage of people that are registered in your district to vote?
Yes. Hold on.
Because that's a good question, because, you know, it's like 20% of the population of the United States is literally registered to vote. I'm curious, how much of a registered voters do we have actually in your district and in every other district, basically?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
We'll find out, you know, we should find out.
Yeah. I know yeah, that's the key. We do have a lot of unregistered voters in our district, and even the ones that actually are registered to vote, we unfortunately have low voter turnouts, especially during midterm elections. Even last year's presidential election in the city of Waterbury, you got a population of I think it's 114,000 people, and only about 26 to 28,000 people actually voted. So, you know, a lot of times, we're losing elections because people are not participating in the process. I've heard stories of it's only 40% of registered gun owners who are actually registered to vote.
Yeah.
So, it's just, people are concerned about losing their rights, but they're not participating in the process.
So 4,000 shouldn't be that hard to get. Is it worth the effort to start getting signatures now versus waiting?
No, you have to wait. It's actually,
yeah, that's why.
yeah, you have to wait. You have to wait till after convention. It's actually illegal to get the I can't get the signatures beforehand. Because if that's the case, everybody, yeah, if that's the case, everybody will get signatures. You got to start getting the signatures after the convention, and then I think I don't know if it's like a 2 to 3 week window. I got to get I'll have all that information beforehand. Like I said, I'm learning the process, and I'm studying the bylaws. And like I said, the state party's not giving me much help. There are some state central members that are helping me, and I'm not gonna say none of them are helping me. I don't want to list the names of the people that are helping me because I don't want to put them at odds with Ben Proto. But I have certain members of State Central who are actively assisting me from time to time. But still in all, you still got to weigh it out because you don't know if they're sabotaging you or they're really helping you or they're not. I don't know. But I'm educating myself. Me and my wife, we do a lot of research. My wife does a lot of research as well. We have the bylaws, and we've been studying them together.
So can you explain once again what the convention actually is that you were talking about?
All right. Well, the convention is going to be a process of where all the delegates, every Republican town committee has delegates. And I believe the delegates are established by how many registered Republicans you have in said town. So the delegates are the people who they send to convention to basically vote on behalf of the Republican town committee. So if your Republican town committee likes me as a candidate and thinks that I'm a strong candidate against Jahana Hayes, they could say to the delegates, we want to endorse Jonathan Barros to be the candidate. So when they go to convention, they actually vote. And their vote will decide. You need 15% of the votes from the delegates. I'm talking about all the delegates combined. You need 15% in order to get the nomination. Whoever gets the 15% first gets the endorsement from the party. So it's just a convention of of all the RTCs statewide. They all come together at this convention, and people are going to vote for who they want to endorse for governor, who they want to endorse for, Congress, and also if there's primaries on the state level, because there's going to be state representative seats open up too. So most of the time, those don't get primaries, but on the federal races and I think the lieutenant governors, the governor race, the comptroller, the secretary of state, those positions are definitely probably going to be primaries. So that's what the convention is for. The convention is for the delegates to vote for who they want the state party to actually endorse. And whoever doesn't get the endorsement, they have to get the signatures from 3% of the last voting, whatever number of registered Republicans actually voted last election cycle. You have to get 3% of that number to actually get your name on the ballot so that you could be in a primary election. So that's what the convention is about.
It's a little complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a lot of backstabbing. It's a lot of backdoor deals. That's how I know. Like right now, the reason why my race is so quiet is because everybody's focused on municipals, the local aldermen, the mayors.
Yes, it's coming up in November. Yeah.
Yeah, once that's over with, everybody that's gonna be running for Congress is gonna heat up, and that's why I know that I'm gonna be a target. They're gonna target me, so they're gonna come after me. You know, they already got somebody that filed in Danbury that's gonna come primary me. She's not a strong candidate. She tried to run 2 times prior against George Logan, and George Logan got the endorsement both times, and she couldn't even get her name on the ballot. She didn't have enough. She didn't have a street team. She couldn't get the signatures to get on the ballot, so she just fizzled out. I'm almost guaranteed.
Signatures shouldn't be that big of a deal, really. Honestly, I don't know.
But when you're just campaigning with 1 or 2 people.
That's true. Yeah. No,
you know, when you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you don't got the support of hundreds of people that's gonna pour in and get you to see.
Yeah, that's true.
I already know that I got enough support to get my name on the ballot with the signatures. I'm hoping I don't have to deal with that. I'm hoping I can get the endorsement, but I'm prepared to get the signatures if I have to. And then I'll have a debate with whoever the state party endorses. You know.
Yeah, I hope you're going to make it, and fingers crossed, with a little bit of help from God, you should be able to make that happen. And I wish you do, I really do.
Listen, I appreciate it, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody's time that's been, people that have been tuning in and out, watching, people that may watch this later on. I thank you for just giving me the time to speak and to, address some of the issues or some of the policies that I have and things that I want to do for the state. I just felt as though the reason why I decided to run for public office was I just got tired of watching the same people run over and over again and keep losing. Yeah. And I just felt as though that, me screaming at the television set and getting pissed off wasn't going to change anything. So I was either going to do 2 things. I was either going to move, which me and my wife, we flew to Texas last year, looked at 15 houses. We was either going to pack up and leave, or we was going to stay here and fight. But one thing I wasn't going to do was just stay here and get these people to run over us over and over again, every single election time, bully us, push us out the way, and they just take advantage of us. So I wanted to fight, and that's what I'm doing. So
I have another question from the chat. What are things you want your voters to know about you that makes you a better candidate than the others?
The one thing that I would like the voters to know is that I'm not doing this for name recognition. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because I felt compelled to do this, because God put it in my heart to fight back against the evils that I've been seeing in this state. I'm the type of candidate that my support, people that call me, I'll answer the phone early in the morning, late at night. There's been times that, I've traveled to go meet with people, to talk to them and to help them with certain issues any which way I can. I'm doing this because I really care, and I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to take money and sell you out. And I'm from the city of Waterbury. I was born and raised in the same environment my opponent Jahana Hayes was born and raised in. Even if you go on our Facebook profile, we got at least 35 to 40 mutual friends on Facebook. My family knows her family. We got a lot of the same friends. I know how to communicate and how to talk to the people so that the people can understand what Republican values really are. Nobody else is going to do what I'm doing. Nobody. George Logan ran 2 times. He never went into the community. He never talked to the people. You know, you could go to Waterbury without being in Waterbury.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I
You know,
cannot imagine not just going out and talking to people. I can't imagine that, to be honest with you. And that's one of the most important things, you know?
yeah, you
I
got to
mean, that's
talk to
how we get to know you and get a perception of who you really are.
Exactly. And I got supporters. I'm not just some hood guy that's going into the hood and only talking to people in the hood. I go to the most rural and remote areas of the 5th district. I've been to Warren. I have a supporter of mine that invited me to his home in Warren, Connecticut, and he lived in the woods. And I was out there and I had a great time, and he introduced me to everybody in his community, and we had a blast. And they're very, very, very supportive of me and my campaign. And the veterans, law enforcement, I've spoken to several law enforcement officers and agencies and departments, and they're very supportive of me as well. You know, my background, everything that I've been through in my life, it has prepared me to be able to communicate and to have empathy for various different groups of people in our district, from the elderly, to law enforcement, to the formerly incarcerated. That's another thing. We have over 213,000 people in our state that have criminal records, and they all could vote. Because of my background and things that I've been through in my life, I'm a big advocate for prison reform, just like President Trump was with his First Step Act and Second Chance Act and criminal justice reform. I'm a big advocate for people who pay their debt to society and is transitioned back into the workforce. I want them to become successful Americans. I want them to get jobs. I want them to start businesses. I want them to be contributors to our economy instead of a burden. You know, I'm just a down to earth person that could relate to various different demographics of our district. And I think that for the first time in a long time, we have a great opportunity actually winning a federal election. And I hope that you will put your trust in me and back me and support me in this effort.
So you partially already answered the next question that we have from the chat. What experience do you bring to the job? Skills, management, past experiences that will help you?
Well, I just believe, you know, because my job as your state representative in Congress, you know, we look at history, right? We could bring up all the other people, from Jahana Hayes being a teacher. You know, she had no prior political experience. AOC was a waitress. No prior political experience. But if you go back from the very beginning of the ending of slavery during the Reconstruction period, you had 22 Black Americans who served in the House of Representatives, fresh out of slavery. They had no prior political experience, but they knew how to represent their districts because they were people that came from, you know, situations of oppression, situations of, they knew that America deserved better, right? I know.
So what do you do for work now, if you don't mind me asking?
Right. Currently, right now, I was working for the city of Waterbury. I could get into that. That's a whole different topic. Yeah, I used to work for the city of Waterbury for the engineering department. I have an electrical background, and the city of Waterbury, unfortunately, working in the engineering department, they had a lot of hazardous conditions, situations. I'm talking about traffic lights with broken brackets that were dangling. They weren't being maintained properly, and they were actually on the verge of falling on people's cars, vehicles. I assessed the situation and brought it to the supervisors at my facility. And unfortunately, the materials that I needed to fix these issues weren't being ordered. The trucks that I needed to lower down this light, I needed like a jib.
Yeah.
To lower down the light. We didn't have the jib. They didn't want to hire the contractors to bring out the resources. They wanted me to jerry rig the light. So because they did not want to fix the problem, I had to report this issue for the safety of the general public over time. And I'm sad to say this. I waited too long. I should have did it right away, but I waited several weeks actually to report this issue to OSHA. And when I reported this to OSHA, the city of Waterbury actually terminated me from my job. They violated the Whistleblowers Act and fired me from my job. So I'm currently fighting them right now and
wrongful termination. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, wrongful termination. And that just happened not that long ago. So I've been going through that. But I'm in the process of looking for another job, but I'm still getting paid as I look for another job. But this just happened. And I got retaliated against. I lost my pension. I lost my medical insurance, all because of it. But everything that I'm telling you is documented. I got pictures. I got video. I got everything.
Yeah.
I made sure I documented everything as it went down. So they either gonna have to restore, because I'm supposed to have a hearing. They either have to give me my job back, or they're gonna have to compensate me for what they did. So
yeah, but why I asked you that question, because I kind of wanted to know what exact background you're from, and it just seems like you are a blue collar type of a guy, and those guys, let me tell you, work the hardest. Like, it's the hardest job, basically to be in that kind of field, you're not a pencil pusher, and I'm not saying that that's not a hard work, but working physically, every single day for 8-10 hours a day, it really wears you down, like it is a hard work. So I believe you do understand what it means, hard work, and I'm pretty sure you're going to implement that hard work into the state, because you understand certain things.
yes, for sure. And I understand that even coming from a construction and electrical construction background, I understand there's a lot of opportunities for people to get into the field. But I also know that a lot of these opportunities are being taken away right now currently because of illegals. There's a lot of contractors that own construction business that's actually being put out of work because they gave illegal migrants pickup trucks and their own supplies to start their own businesses. So you got American citizens competing against illegals currently in our state for construction jobs. So it's a lot to it, but that's my background. My background is I'm a blue collar worker with electrical background. So that's what I do.
So you never actually went through college, correct?
No.
Okay.
I graduated from IMTI in Waterbury for the electrical technician program.
Technical school. Well, I'm asking just because I believe that trade people are a lot more down to earth and understanding a lot of issues than the people that just went through college for some reason. And there is a huge indoctrination, and they brainwash everyone who goes to college, and college like Charlie always said, is a scam, especially in this country. It costs you so much money, but then in the end gives you a job that pays you $20 an hour, It's incredible, what they're really doing with the students here and how much money they are really asking for all this indoctrination, And I'm actually extremely happy that I have someone here who understands what the life is really all about. Like I'm pretty sure you're not coming from a rich family because you said your parents did divorce, so your mom was probably a single mom for some time. I don't know exactly the story.
Yeah, my mom never was on government assistance. She worked 2 jobs at some point in time, but she worked in the factories. My mom was a hard worker. She provided, she owned her own home. My mom was a very hard worker, but during that time period, my mom was born in 1940. So, during that time period, the factories that she was working for, she used to work for Peter and Paul Almond Joy, the factory out of Naugatuck. They used to make the candies, but they made great money and they had a pension. My mom retired with a pension from her job. So those pension jobs and those factories, a lot of that went out the window when they started to close down because of the taxes here in the state. It was just outrageous.
Yeah. But your mom, had a possibility, to basically live in a good America. It was a good America. It was not America that we have now. But, what I'm getting with this is I do like to see people that came from the families, that were also hardworking. And it's not like, your mom gave you thousands of dollars for your down payment on your house, that your parents paid for your college, your parents, paid for your wedding, and you see a lot of these people who are completely dependent on, their parents' money, and now you're going to actually believe that they're going to do something good to you. Like they don't really have to work that hard because they are getting everything from their parents. And I see that a lot here in Connecticut, actually, because, last 15 years, a lot of the people that I know, they were getting married, they were getting houses. And sorry, that's my cat's insulin alarm. They were getting married, they were getting families, they were getting houses, and I am happy to say that I have never taken a dollar from my parents, Not that even their money would mean anything here in the United States, but I always was the one who would provide for my parents instead of taking money from them, because I believe if I'm taking from them, like what kind of retirement and life are they going to have if they have to take care of me, But here I just see that a lot. Every almost single friend that I have, or someone that I knew, they were buying a house. The down payment on that house was coming from their parents. And I'm like, how are you even successful in life if you cannot make it to figure out your own down payment?
Yeah.
And that makes me really upset because it's the hard work and it's the being independent and not counting on other people to take care of you, that's what gets you far in life. And that's what I want to see going into the government, the people who had to go through life, sacrificing, going through hardships, understanding what does it mean to work for that down payment, what does it mean to work 2 or 3 jobs to have that down payment, and like you said, it's even better when you have 2 people, and working for all that. But yet these guys are taking money from their parents. Like it's crazy. And then, I really don't know anybody's history and stuff like that. But then you have someone like Jahana Hayes, who's going into the government and trying to implement some policies, and she, I think, she said either 3 or 4 kids. I cannot remember how many kids she has, but
the sad thing about her is she grew up rough. Like I know how she grew up, so
yeah,
I know her family. Like she didn't grow up with a silver spoon in her mouth. That's why it breaks my heart that she actually, that you got in position to really help somebody and you just forgot where you came from, and you just, but you know what? The way I look at it is this: you got to look at this too. Jahana Hayes didn't become a congresswoman because she wanted to help the people. She became a congresswoman because Christopher Murphy went to her and picked her to become a congresswoman. Because I don't know if you noticed, before Christopher Murphy was a U.S. senator, he was the congressional representative for District 5. That was his seat. So when he moved up to the Senate, he needed to find someone to be his rubber stamp so he could control that still control the U.S. congressional seat and the Senate seat. So he found Jahana Hayes, who was a teenage mother, grew up in a rough environment. Her parents had a lot of difficulties with them. Her upbringing was rough, and she made something out of herself. She became a teacher, and they asked her. They put her, because I don't know if you noticed, but when you become the teacher of the year, you actually the teacher puts in a request to be considered for that position. They made her teacher of the year, right?
Yeah.
Then they flew her to Washington, D.C. to meet with Obama, right? Because it was all a plan from the beginning. They made her teacher of the year. They flew her to see Obama. He was so-called supposed to be the black president. They used the photo ops because they already had this plan in place that they was going to run her for Congress in the 5th district. That's how she got in that position. So everything came to her so quickly, and it was unexpected, because I'm pretty sure she never thought she was going to run for public office, that she don't feel obligated to helping the people in the 5th district because she didn't become a congresswoman to help anybody. She became a congresswoman because it was an opportunity to make more money than being a teacher.
Yes.
So, so it was a self-serving decision from the very start. It wasn't like, okay, like me, I woke up and was like, you know what, man, I'm tired of watching them run these soft candidates, allowing people like Jahana Hayes to run our district into the ground. And I'm like, I had coworkers. The reason why I decided to run, to be honest with you, I had coworkers that told me, yo, you should run for public office, because I used to talk to them. I'm talking about Italian co-workers, hardworking Americans, black workers, black co-workers, hardworking Americans, Hispanics, people that was out here working. They was like, yo, you're too smart. Like you should actually run for office. Like, and I never took that into consideration before until they put that idea in my head. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm like, they got people like Jasmine Crockett representing them. They got AOC, representing them on the other side. I'm like, listen, I'm not comparing myself to them. I'm just saying, if they could do it, Ilhan Omar. See, the Democrats don't care. The Democrats don't care who they got representing them. As long as they got somebody to fill that seat, they don't care. It's the Republicans that's looking for a squeaky clean, polished candidate that's never going to win. Why not run me, back me, let me get Jahana Hayes out the way? You already know I got conservative values. You already know that my values, instead of focusing on how I talk, my background, how I look, focus on my policies, focus on my strategy for winning, and back me so that I could get in position and I could represent us the way we need to be represented here at home, right here in Connecticut.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Fingers crossed. And anytime I can help, and if you need anything from me, you let me know. And I think after 2.5 hours, I think we kind of exhausted
Yeah.
a lot of issues that we had and we needed to talk about, and what is going to happen when you get, elected. And, there are veterans, there are gun rights, pro-life with you, all the good stuff that, literally MAGA is all about, to be honest with you. So
All right, thank you.
see where this journey is going to take us, hopefully in the right direction.
Yeah. So please hit the link and the dot. When read, donate 10, 5, whatever you could donate, whatever funds you could support me with, back up my campaign. I gotta get yard signs. I got a lot of things I gotta do, and it's gonna take a collective effort. If you're tired of complaining that things are getting bad, things are getting worse, you gotta do something about it. You gotta become the change that you want to see. You gotta look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I gotta do it. That's what I did. Like I'm like, if nobody else is gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And we gotta start backing each other and supporting each other. So.
Yeah. That's right. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for joining us. I am pretty sure we are going to be doing this probably a few other times, to make sure that we put you out there, and social media is a very powerful tool, and we can get a lot more people on your side if we will do, more of the streaming and talking like this, because people are just lazy. They don't want to go anywhere, and they are okay watching stuff on their phones, so that's why we haven't been really getting, a lot of people coming to the patriotic gatherings, and stuff like that, because everyone is just on their phone. So if they are on their phone, we need to use this, we need to use the time. We need to have them scroll you on their screens, and look at you and listen. So I would suggest we definitely focus on, getting you some of the sponsored type of maybe shorts, reels, and stuff like that will be distributed basically only in Connecticut, because that's what we need right now. And like you said, after we're done with November, for all the local stuff, then we should definitely start full force, like 120%, So thank you so much for coming and talking to us. We appreciate you, and we wish you good luck with everything. We're definitely rooting for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. God bless everybody. And I'll see you soon. Thank you. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you guys being here with us. I hope that you liked our conversations and everything that you hear. And again, if you do have a couple bucks to spare and you would like to see my state, Connecticut, being turned red, please make sure that you donate to Jonathan and help us flip this state and make it red. And for tonight, I wish you good. Have a happy, nice night. Hopefully, you'll go on your phone and scroll a little bit and you see Jonathan in action. But I want to invite you, possibly maybe tomorrow, I will be able to go to public library where New Britain mayoral, I think, or mayor debate is going to be held. I hope I can make it. So if I do, I will stream it because I want to see what these candidates are all about, because I do not know any of them. So let's see if we can make that happen. I'm not going to set the stream because I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen with my work, but I will try to go there. And for tonight, as usual, I love you guys. Thank you so much. And take care. Bye.